everybody. Welcome back to Everyone's Addicted. Today's guest, Janelle, is here to share her knowledge and her experience with addiction. So, welcome, Janelle. And yeah, take it away and let us know a little about you.
All right, thank you very much. I am a mom of two kids. I live in Texas. I am just outside of Houston, and I've done a lot with my life, but probably the major turning point in my life happened when my teenage daughter became addicted to drugs, and we went through a horrific experience with discovering what was happening with her and then working to save her life, basically. And through the experience of recovery, my entire life took a totally different direction. And so I own a private practice now, a holistic mental health practice in Houston, and really work hard to help people heal, especially from addictions, but lots and lots of other things too.
Because mental health
Health
is really
addiction.
kind of
Yes.
the root cause of
Yeah.
addiction. So, it's not always just addiction, it's
No.
mental health, realistic.
It's always both, right? And so we have found really amazing holistic natural ways to help heal and heal the brain, especially. So we're a brain health center, and so that was all born out of my experience with my daughter. And not to give away I guess the biggest the happy ending, but we do work together now, even after all we've been through. We're partners in this business. I did start it, but she joined me 3 years ago, and we work together. And healing is our purpose, really, to help.
I love it, and I love the form of holistic healing because I find that everything is so textbook in the other like, do you know what I mean, with counseling and stuff like that, that when you have more of a spiritual kind of context put into it, it helps you kind of find those root causes, opposed to just being like, I remember when I was just coming in for anxiety issues, they're like, every time you feel anxious, write it down. That wasn't really helpful. Do you know what I mean? It didn't really get to the root of my anxiety. I knew what it was. So it caused my alcoholism though, because I was bullied. So I was anxious all the time, right? Because I was afraid I was going to
Yeah,
see somebody that I lived in a small town that was going to yell something at me, right? So to leave the
right.
house, I would drink in order to leave the house. So I ended up getting diagnosed with agoraphobia and learning how to heal. I actually had my own holistic healing business for a little while, but I went back to school. So I don't do that anymore. It was taking over too much, and I have two little kids, and I couldn't be like, people were always trying to connect, and I was like, well, my kids just came home, and then they kind of, when people really need you and you're like, I can't help you, and then you feel bad, and it was just
Yes.
causing my anxiety to be worse. So I was like, okay, I'm going to step back right now. I'm going to go back to school and figure that out, maybe learn some better ways of doing this kind of stuff. And yeah, so I do understand the part of really wanting to help people. And I feel like anybody who's experienced addiction in their lives tend to want to help in some form of a way because they've
Yeah.
seen it, right?
Yeah, it's really amazing. It's probably the most tender, um, deep feeling population. And I think
Mhm.
unless you've been around a lot of people who are in recovery from addiction, you wouldn't notice that, because I think there's such a stigma involved in, we can separate ourselves. Like, it's those people, those addicted people, those drug addicts, they're nothing like me. But if you were to actually get acquainted with the population as a general rule, these are beautiful, beautiful people. They just had life happen. They've made choices. They've become addicted to drugs, and that changes who they are. But without those substances, they're really amazing people. And they do want to reach out that hand and help people after they've been helped, because it's they have a life now. Like, it's a gift, right? You've been given this gift. You can restart your life after you get into recovery, and you want that for everyone. And
And
that's the
that's
people we're talking about. Yeah.
that's literally why I started my podcast, was because I live in a smaller town where it's very opiate addicted population, and there's a lot of homeless, right? And people are very, very mean to the homeless. And I always, because I obviously have had addictions, I was never homeless because I was lucky my dad let me stay at his house, but otherwise I would have been there too. And
Hmm.
it's, I said, like, nobody asks to be an addict. Nobody asks to have mental health issues, because half of those people aren't even addicts. Some of them just have schizophrenia, or
Right.
other health problems, right? So when you look down upon, like, people look down upon them like they're nothing. And it just hurt me so much because I know that feeling. So I was like, I'm going to start a podcast to show people that the realness of what it is, instead of the judgment that people put on it, like you said, like that label of, oh, they're not like me. But yet
Right.
there's a lot of functioning addicts out there that are like rich, and you just would never know. Like, even like, look at
Yeah.
Matthew Perry, right? Like, you never
Right.
know. So
You would
that's,
never know.
I totally agree with that.
And that's another reason why my daughter and I decided to tell our story is because like if you look at us and where we come from, we don't look like addicts. We don't look like those people. And that's because those people are all of us. It can happen to anyone. I don't care where you're from. I don't care how much money you have. I don't care what kind of house you live in. I don't care what side of the tracks you live on. It it happens. It
Well,
happens to real,
doctors
real
even,
people.
that's
Yes.
that's what I say when people make, like, there's basically, like, what's happening in this our city, and people will like comment about them and stuff, and I'm like, you're one prescription away, or one of your loved ones is one prescription away, and you don't even know it. So don't judge, because it could be you in a couple of years and you would never know until it happens. I totally,
Absolutely.
yeah.
Yeah, and and so we're just a normal, everyday middle class family. From the outside, everything looks pretty, right? But on the inside, it's not always very pretty. And my daughter went through some things with her dad and abuse and things that nobody would have known about unless they knew us like intimately. And it affects everyone differently. And her choice, ended up to her coping
Like,
mechanism, as a teenager who couldn't understand a lot of the things that were happening to her. She tried drugs for the first time, which is not unusual in high school, but the effect that it had on her was that it took away all the pain. And it was the only thing that she had found that actually eliminated the pain. And so it made her want to do it more and all the time, right? So, like,
mhm.
quickly did she become addicted because it was to numb the pain that she was already feeling and didn't know what else to do with it. I didn't know the depth of her pain. I knew some of what was happening, but I didn't know all of it. And she wasn't sharing that. And she was putting on a happy face and she was trying to be this, you know, the girl that
Act
we always knew
normal.
she was. Yeah, she wanted to be normal, and there wasn't really a lot normal in her life. And so the drugs took care of that. And for her, the drugs saved her life. She would have probably committed suicide if she hadn't found them. And that she tells that story in the book.
I
Um,
resonate with that so much because, like I said, I was bullied. So for me, it was
she
the
was,
same thing. It was a coping mechanism
yeah,
to be not, like you said, not feel the pain of it. And
yeah,
same thing, like, if I didn't have, like, I wasn't taught real coping mechanisms, but if I didn't have the drugs and the alcohol, and maybe even some of the friends I had that were also bullied, we kind of came together, but we would use things because we were all going through that. And I totally resonate with that. And you know what? Nobody really says that it actually saved your life, because in reality, it it same here. Like, I probably wouldn't be here today if I wasn't doing those things, which is, doesn't sound good to say, but it's the
oh,
truth.
But it is the truth. And she spells that out. The book that I wrote, and I'll just show it, it's called Losing Her, Finding Us. And it's our story of going through that, finding out her about her addiction, being, and I didn't find out. I was told and I was sent a photo. So like there was evidence of it because I don't really think, I think God knew I wasn't going to believe it unless I saw it. And so it was really divine intervention because that really started the journey to save her life. But I mean it took me a while to figure things out too. So I wasn't just, Johnny on the spot and knew exactly what to do. I didn't. But the book is told from both perspectives. So you have my part and then you have her story as well in the same book.
I think I
So
want to
as
buy that book. It sounds really good.
it's really amazing because I read when this started for us and I was trying to learn everything I could learn about what was happening in our lives.
Mhm.
You find a lot of books that are written by somebody who's in recovery, who's the addict and they're in recovery. And I loved those books. And then you would find books from the parent and I loved those books, but they always left me with questions. If it was
Mhm.
the parent, I wanted to know what was the kid doing? What was really happening? And if it was written by the addict, I wanted to know where the family was. Where were your parents? What was going on? Were they even there? Did they know? So I always had more questions, even though I loved a lot of those books. So what I set out to do after we kind of got through and got into recovery a year or two later, I was like, I want to write the book that I wish that I could have read. I wanted to know the full picture, and that's what this book gives you is the full picture.
And
So you
that's
don't get one perspective, you get both. And we don't have the same perspective in a lot of it. So it is very interesting to see the differences as you
that's what I
read.
like about it. And I like that you're coming from a place of, because there is so many people that there's that gap, like you said, right? So by reading that, you'll understand, and I get that point because I've talked to a lot of parents who have actually lost their children, and they have that gap of what did I do wrong, or like what didn't I understand. So having a book like that, it helps so much. Like I talked to a gentleman who he lost his son and he became an interventionist so that he could learn how to help other families deal properly with their sick child so that it didn't happen the way it happened to him, because he'll say I made a lot of mistakes along the way because I didn't know better, right? So having your daughter's perspective of being the addict and having all of these pain, and then having the mother who also has all this pain and all this worry, I just think that I really want to read it. I think very good.
I have gotten really good feedback from it. It's hard to put down. It reads like a fiction book, which I think is great because it's an easy read that way. It's painful, it's emotional, but has a happy ending. My daughter is 6 years sober, six and a
Oh,
half
that's
years.
awesome.
Yes, and she's about to be 25. So she got sober young, and
Young,
there's a
that's
lot of
awesome.
struggle. But there's a lot of struggle with getting sober young too,
Mm,
because
that's
your
why I
generation,
relapsed.
right, your generation is partying, right?
Well,
And
you
so
want to go out on dates and stuff. You want to hang
yeah.
out with people, and everybody's like looking at you weird, like, why don't you want to drink, or why don't you want to smoke, or whatever it is, right? And you're like, I don't really want to. I was 24, and that's when I relapsed because I left the person I was with, and then I was single, and then I go on these dates, and I wouldn't know how to tell the person because they always just want to buy you a drink, right? And I didn't know how to
Yes.
tell them I can't have a drink, and then have them think that I'm like this person that has all these issues. So stay away, red flag, red flag. When so it really screwed me up. So I think it's so beautiful that she was able to actually do it and then also be able to move on to help others as well at such a young age. I like think that's amazing. And there's not
Yeah.
a lot of younger people that are doing that, because like you said, it's just so hard with being that age, right?
Yeah, she has had a lot of struggles with it, and I'm really proud of her because she's been very protective of her sobriety. and she still is very protective. So she spends a lot of her time alone or with just a couple of really safe people that know her story and support her, and and so she's safe. But dating has been a challenge. She has, there's this question too. Is it better to date somebody in recovery, or is it better to date a normie, like we call them, right? And there's pros and cons to both,
Well,
because if you date,
I 13 stepped in AA, and
oh,
that's what led to my relapse because the
yeah,
person dumped me. I guess dumped me. I don't know how else to say it, right? But it sent me into an emotional spiral because I'm like, well, if this person, like, I just felt so like, well, I'm sober and I'm doing everything right, but you still don't want me. And so it just led me to go back out there and have that, like you said, like there's the normies and then there's the people in recovery. But I think if somebody's been in recovery for a longer period of time than the person that I was seeing who had just entered and I had just entered, you would probably have more success in your relationship, right?
you speak the same language
Mm-hmm.
at that
But
point, right?
my husband, he knew that I had like I my mom worked for him, so he knew that I like had this past, right? So he was very accepting of it, but that was the only person that really accepted me. Like everybody else, it was so hard. It was so hard to be
Yeah,
like, I can't do this. I can't, like, yeah, it's such a hard thing to have to talk about. Like, that's why she's
it
a strong woman. I'll give her that.
is. She has inspired me a lot, because I was also early on, I didn't want to tell anyone. I didn't want to talk to anyone about it. It was embarrassing. It was shameful. It was, did I cause this? What did I do something wrong? And is it my fault? And, what if she dies? And like just the fears and the shame that comes along with it. So I kept it to myself for a really long time.
It's
And
probably mentally affected you hard.
oh yeah. Oh yeah. And it's funny because I wrote the book and it just released, and I had really close friends that read it and apologized to me for not being there for me, even though they were, but they didn't know so much because I didn't share it.
It's hard
And I
to.
couldn't share it. Yeah, I couldn't bring myself to share it. So there was a lot that even the people that were around me all the time, or really often, didn't know what we were really going through and what I was really dealing with. They just didn't. And they couldn't have known. I don't blame them. They don't need to apologize to me at all.
Mhm.
But it was interesting, their reaction to it was how much they didn't know, because I didn't share it and I didn't feel like I could. And, I mean, even if I did with them, would they have understood it?
Mhm.
If you haven't dealt with it, then it's really, really difficult to
Yeah.
understand. I'm not sure I understood it, at the time. So it, I don't know if it would have been helpful for me, but what was really helpful for me was finding support from people who had walked the path before me and could reach out their hand and give me love and support and understanding and non-judgment, and just help me navigate what I needed to do for myself, not just for my daughter, but for myself, because you can lose yourself completely in this if your focus is completely on your loved one.
Well, that's like there's a woman I know that she's from my hometown and her daughter passed away due to drugs, right? And she doesn't have that support system. So she's just very lost and very sad, very overwhelmed, very angry. Plus, she has a 3-year-old now to look after. And I
Oh,
always feel, I always try to like send her like to people that I know that like are supportive, but I just think she's just not at that point yet where she like wants to let go. I don't know how to explain it, but she like needs to do what you did, like find other people. She has one friend that has also lost her son, but the other woman is in support groups. So she just listens to that woman, but she needs more than one person. And I just want to take her and be like, come, I'll show you. But I guess you know what, even in mental health recovery, you have to be ready for it. And I think the loss was just so significant to her because there's suspicious things around the loss that she's more focused on that aspect of that somebody hurt her daughter, and she's not ready to just try to heal and move past all of this kind of stuff, right? Because you can't change the past, you can only heal yourself towards the future. But
Right.
I just try to talk to her and be there for her. I've never obviously had a child addicted yet, I guess you could say, but
Mhm.
I try my best to like talk to her and be, like I didn't even know her daughter. Her daughter dated my high school boyfriend. So that's the only reason I kind of know who her daughter is. And my high school boyfriend spoke very like where we don't have any problems. It was high school. I'm 37. So he spoke very highly of her and stuff. So I reached out to her mom just to see if she wanted to because she bought a billboard about fentanyl awareness with her daughter on it. So I said, "Well, do you want
Oh,
to do like an episode or something?" And in talking to her, you just feel that pain. Like she needs that like help, like what you and your daughter do. She needs to reach out to somebody like that and actually get that kind of help. But like what you and your daughter take on clients, what exactly do you guys do so that the listeners can hear if they want to ever reach out?
yeah. So we started with, it's called IASIS microcurrent neurofeedback. So it is a newer kind of neurofeedback that helps to rebalance the brain. And it's
I
kind
can
of
see the
like,
things in the back, that's why I'm asking.
oh yeah, so my machine is over here, but it's really non-invasive. It's super safe for people of all ages, but we started from coming from a place of recovery. So what the machine does is it does affect the brain, but it puts a microcurrent into the brain, so it's millions of times less energy than a cell phone. So you like literally cannot feel it, but it helps the brain to rebalance itself and function better. So you can imagine my daughter was my first client. I got trained in this through some really interesting serendipities, I think. But she was my first client and she had come off of a relapse. So she had been sober for 11 months and then she relapsed and then she got sober again. And so she was sober this time for about 6 months when I started treating people with microcurrent neurofeedback. And so the person that I worked for happened to let me practice on my daughter, which I mean, that was such a blessing.
Mm-hmm.
She didn't believe in it. She didn't. I'm a brain
Well,
person. I
I
think it,
I had a friend, and this is going back 20 years, right?
uh-huh.
He, his mother had gotten off benzodiazepines from using it. So he had a strong addiction to crack cocaine, and he used it. And he was telling us, "Oh, this machine," and he's like completely sober of everything. Like he doesn't touch anything, and he was pretty like bad at the time. And so
Yeah,
he's telling us about this machine, and we're looking at him like, you're crazy. Now, like, now looking back, I was only like 18, so I thought he was crazy, right? Thinking a machine
right.
would really help you. But then now
Yeah.
that I've had addictions and gone through recovery and stuff, I'm like, wow, he really did help him. If I look at him now, like he's
Yeah.
doing great, you know, and nobody ever thought he would be able to get sober. So proof is in the
I
pudding.
understand that. Yeah. So the cool thing, there's traditional neurofeedback and then there's some newer neurofeedback. This is a newer one. It's more effective in less time. But when I used it with my daughter, within one session, she was like, I feel happier than I've felt maybe ever in my life. And she no longer had anxiety and she was sleeping again. And she had neck pain from a car accident that went away. And I mean, headaches that she would deal with, those were gone. And so, I mean, we did a series of sessions because it takes a series to for the changes to become permanent. But since it rebalances the brain as a whole, I didn't treat addiction. I didn't treat anxiety. I treated her brain. And so when your brain is functioning well and like it's supposed to, then a lot of those conditions are much less or they go away because your brain now functions correctly. And so your brain is really smart. It knows what it needs to be doing. And sometimes it just gets stuck because we've taken drugs or we've taken prescription medications or we've ingested other kinds of toxins through our food and our water and our environment. And that just it naturally happens where your brain stops functioning well. Trauma can hurt your brain and it can help your brain not to function
Stays
right.
in your body too. Thing
Absolutely.
is, your brain doesn't fully form until you're 25. So if you're like I did doing drugs younger, you are going to have your
Yeah.
brain not functioning properly. And I know my brain doesn't function properly because
Yeah.
of all my anxiety issues that I've
Yes.
dealt with, right? So I totally understand like how effective that would be for somebody
Yep.
because it's
And
like,
brain injury,
yeah, like
concussion,
just rewiring it.
you damage your brain. Like we can help the brain to heal itself. So it's not really we're doing the healing, but the energy that we're putting into the brain helps the brain to heal. And I don't have an explanation as to how exactly that works, but our brain is an energetic organ, and so it makes sense to treat energy with energy.
Well, I think
So,
it's the frequencies. I've been told that each
mhm,
person, their body is supposed to be healthy. Your body needs to run at a certain frequency. And I feel like maybe that's why it treats it because it puts it back on its back on track. Like, you know what I mean? With the train
yeah,
tracks, they switch it back over.
yeah. So we started with that, and that was, I mean, it was very well received, and especially after her experience, and then of course I started treating myself, and lots and lots of people. But it evolved because um, I tried to get counselors to want to work with us or work with me because I felt like, because a lot of people come with traumatic experiences. And so, when your brain heals, it doesn't take away your trauma. Like you still remember all the things that happened to you, and that still can affect you. So, counseling could be a really good marriage with the system for some people, not everyone, but for some people. So, I wanted to partner with counselors, and I wasn't finding anyone that was willing to do that because I think there was a more of a feeling of threat to actually getting people well. And my goal was to get people well.
Taking
So,
clients away from them, kind of maybe.
yes, kind of like that. And it got to feel really icky because I thought I was in a helping profession and I have a helping mindset. So I went back to school and got my master's degree and became a counselor. And I said I would never do that, but the need is there and nobody wanted to fill that role with me. And so I just said, okay, I'll do it myself. So I went back and by the time I was 50, I'm going to give away my age. In my early 50s, I got my master's degree
Well,
and I became
congratulations.
a
And
counselor.
I can't believe, like, well, I can, but I don't understand why they wouldn't want to work with you. You could have like an office building where they come see you. They could do cognitive behavioral therapy, trauma therapy. Like, it could be so good, but like, well, I don't know. I do kind of understand because I know that they have their set ways and they also are afraid they might lose a client to a different counselor and all that kind of stuff.
Mhm.
But I think it's incredible that you went back and got your master's and said, F you guys, I'm going to do it
That's what I
myself.
did. Yes. So I did that, and now I'm a licensed counselor. So in the middle of that too, brain spotting, which is trauma therapy, developed from EMDR, which is what most people will recognize as EMDR as trauma therapy. But brain spotting helped Reagan, my daughter, when she was in recovery, but she had to go to counseling and she had a lot to work through. So brain spotting was integral in her healing from a lot of her childhood trauma stuff. So we both trained in brain spotting. This was after she came on and she was doing the neurofeedback and she became a chemical dependency counselor. And so we trained in brain spotting so we could offer trauma therapy as well. So in addition to that, I just became a doctor of functional medicine. So
You're
I'm
just
adding,
going.
I
That's
keep
amazing.
going because I see the need for holistic health, and there's not a lot of options out there. And coming from a background of addiction, I don't want to put pills or medications in people's bodies. I want to keep your body healthy with non-toxic products. So we have an entire store in our waiting room that is dedicated to healthy, non-toxic, everyday products that cover the gamut of
What I
hair,
love,
thickness, body,
plant
have
medicine.
all of it. Yes, we have something. If you go to Walgreens or CVS to get something over the counter, we have a natural option here in our store that is going to be safer and better for you and non-toxic.
And I
And
think that's so important. Like, I don't know why there isn't more of that. So
mhm.
you
So we're
guys
doing
are
all of
killing
it.
it.
We just decided we're taking a holistic approach to mental health because what you put on your body affects the way your brain functions and affects the way your body functions. And so if we're going to be healthy, if we're going to heal something, let's heal it all.
Hmm. I think that's incredible. So how would somebody, if they were interested in this, be able to get a hold of you? Like, do you have a website?
We do. I have two websites. So for our business, we're called the Mind Connection. So you can Google search us, and we're in North Houston or South Tomball, if you're familiar with the area. But our website is tmcbrainhealthcenter.com because we are brain focused. And then I have an author website that is called ourbeautifulrecovery.com. And that's where you can find information about my books and especially this one. This one came out just about a month ago, actually, in late June. And I'd love for people to read it and give me feedback on, how it helped them or what they thought about it or maybe what they learned from it. I like to think that this book is not just our story, but it's a tool for parents and other people to learn about addiction, to maybe soften their hearts toward people who are walking down these hard roads and maybe, because inevitably somebody who is affected by addiction, whether it's a loved one or they're suffering themselves. I guarantee you know someone. And the more you educate yourself and the more you learn, the better friend or, loved one you can be for that person. And
Even just to guide
important.
them in a
Yes.
non-threatening, non-judgmental way, because that's
Yes.
biggest thing with my daughter's father. He always takes it like we're forcing him to do something. Do you know what I mean? So it's harder for him to, because his mother's so involved in a certain type of recovery that he is not he isn't he grew up in a very religious home, so his mother's type of recovery is very religious, so he always doesn't,
Rejecting.
yeah, that's,
Mhm.
he doesn't want anything to do with
Yeah.
that.
And that's fine. There's lots of paths to recovery. And so you do have to meet them where they are and start there. He might eventually warm up to something more spiritual or
Well,
religious.
this would be more him than
Yeah,
the religious recovery. Do you know what I mean? This would be something more that he would be apt to want to do, opposed to his mom forcing him into a religious rehab or something, because then he still has his personal freedom, I guess, where he can
yeah.
cover but still have freedom and not feel like he's locked away. That's why he doesn't like it, right?
Right. And people recover best when they have choices and they're
That's what
able to
I
make
say.
choices for themselves. And even as parents, you have to kind of take a step back and you have to determine, is this something that I really need to control or do I want it to stick and let them be in control of it? Because it's only going to stick if they do it because they want to. And they do it
I'm
the way they want to
I'm gonna
for the
show
most
her
part.
this episode just so that she can like see a different way, that because like with him, he rejects a lot of ways, but this would be one that he, I think, would actually accept.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Because he's friends with the person also that I talked about earlier that was very successful with it, right? So like I wish I would have listened to him when he told me about it when I was younger, because I now understand that my brain wasn't functioning properly and I was using to make it, but it wasn't making it work
Right.
properly. It was just making it worse, right?
Right. Right.
But
And there's a lot of healing. It takes a long time for the brain to heal on its own. And it will to a certain extent, but it usually takes a little help to get it really
well,
where it's.
especially if you have been on benzodiazepines,
Yes.
they are
Really
very,
are
very
destructive.
long recovery. Unless something like this that can help your brain go back
Yes.
to normal, it is very, they don't like, because it makes your brain stop. Well, it makes your brain
I
stop
do.
producing dopamine, right? So having what you do and some counseling on top of that would help so much more than sitting there and having to wait, because like I read things on I just always read things, right? And a lot of people always say that it just takes them so long to feel normal, and that they're like, it's been a couple years and I still feel sick. And I'm like, there needs to be some form of a way to make this better, and this would be something that would make it better and not take so long, right?
Yes, it is really truly amazing. And I always tell people this too, like I'm not going to make you be sober. You
Mm-hmm.
got to be sober. And that's what your work is, but I can help you want to stay sober because I can
That's
help feel better. And that helps a lot with wanting to be sober and making better choices.
Well, that's what I think is with the 12-step programs lack a little bit, is where they don't go any deeper than just the surface. So they're good to get you sober, I guess, but there's no like looking into any sort of reasoning to why you were doing drugs or drinking or whatever it was, sex, gambling, whatever, you know what I mean?
Yep.
There's no, it's just you go in and you tell the same stories of the past. It doesn't go any further than that. And so that's why I always want to show people other options, because I find that that's the problem, is they don't give us enough options when, and like, so if I went to the doctor, they would never tell me about this. Do you know what I mean? And
No.
it would have been something that would have helped me so much like 10 years ago, you know? It's
Yep.
that's where I think our healthcare has like a little bit of lacking, and that's another reason why I like to talk to different people, because I want to show people that there is other routes, there is other options, because I didn't get sober traditionally, right? So
Right.
I just know that, and I know so many people that you first thing you'll say to them is something about a 12-step program, and they'll be like, "Oh, I don't want to do that," right? Right
Yeah.
away they have a negative connotation as soon as you say it, right? So
Mhm.
I just know people need more options, that but they're there. It's just they don't know about them,
No.
and a lot of them they don't know. And you don't know, like, since that, like, with like fix it, like, with like what you do, I wouldn't
Yeah.
think to Google that if I like hadn't heard of it. You know what I mean? So
Yeah.
that's what's I wish would be more important in the healthcare system with trauma and addiction, is focusing on, there's so many ways to find it, that one size doesn't fit all, and you can find freedom in your sobriety if you have these options, right?
Absolutely.
And you don't have to
Absolutely.
label yourself so much either, right? Like,
I don't
um,
like labels and I don't
that
like diagnosing people. I do not like any of that. Because I think we tend to own that and I don't think we have to own that,
Well,
you
that's the
know?
problem. The 12-step programs, you have to say, I'm a drug addict, or I'm an alcoholic, and then you're labeling yourself, which then makes it part of your identity, and then that addiction is still sitting there in your body, right? Like in your mind and in your chest. And I think it makes it harder, like even with like me with dating. I had that label because I was going to programs. And so I felt like I had to be like, well, I'm an alcoholic instead of just saying, I am healing, you know?
Right. Or I'm in recovery
Mm-hmm.
because recovery is beautiful. It is beautiful. And recovery is lifelong. So you can always develop a better version of yourself
Well,
throughout your life. You're never too old.
look at what the human like brain can achieve. Like if you think
Mhm.
about where you started from with your daughter having addiction to now being a like licensed doctor and having all of these things that you never thought was going to be your life, but because of addiction, you were able to like accomplish
Yes.
so much, right? It's
Yeah. And I
really a testament
continue.
to strength, right?
Yeah. And I think resilience, like you can take something that's really, really, really hard and you can make something good out of it, right? I think we're meant to go through, excuse me, I don't think we're meant to go through the hard things and just say, oh, well, that was really hard and never have it change you. It should change you in some way. Open up some door, open up some other idea of maybe what your life is meant to be. But I just don't think that we go through these things for nothing.
No,
So,
and even like you not necessarily being an addict, like I know there's one young person I know that actually like does a lot for recovery because he came from a family of addicts, right? And he's about the same age as your daughter. And I remember talking to him and thinking like you the the idea that I have been working on, he'd already had it done, set up. Like I'm like, oh my gosh, like
amazing.
it's beautiful even like so you don't have to necessarily be an addict to be
Oh,
somebody that wants to help. It's because you've experienced addiction in your life, you realize how hard it is. You watch people struggle going like he said he watched his father struggle with the traditional programs that he thought, well, I'm going to go out there, find all the different ones, make a website and have them all categorized. And I was like, that's what I wanted to do. But he didn't.
amazing. Yeah, it's necessary because so many people don't know where to start, but 12 step has been around a long time, AA. So that is the natural place to start, but it doesn't work for everyone and it isn't for everyone,
Yeah,
but
I don't mean to bash and say that doesn't help
not at
anybody.
all.
I
No, not
just
at all.
didn't help me, and those were the reasons as to why they didn't help
Right.
me. Like I needed more counseling, not
Mhm.
counseling, but like trauma. I needed to deal with my trauma because my trauma was really the core reason for all of it,
That's the
right?
cause. Yes. The drugs are the solution. The problem is what caused you to use the drugs in the first place. And that has to be addressed, or you may be stuck in the same cycle of relapse and sobriety over and over again until you resolve that inner stuff. And that can be done. That
Mm-hmm. I
can.
don't think any like I don't think anybody can't be helped. Do you know what I mean? Where people like write people off. I don't think that nobody can be helped. I think that they just need to find a way that suits them because otherwise they feel like they're being pushed into it and then they're not going to receive it, right?
Right. Right. And a quick story from my book too. My daughter was 17 when we got her into treatment, and she went willingly because there's a lot that build up, and you can read about that in the book too. But like she went because she wanted to get away from her dad. She was living with her dad at the time. And it didn't matter to me what reason that she went. It was like you just want them to go, and you have a little more control when your kids are under 18. So we were really under that by about 6 months. But she went because of that, but she had no intention of really being sober, and she had no intention of, she was going to appease everyone until she turned 18 so she could go out and do what she wanted. And that was her mindset going into her treatment center. I didn't know that at the time. I'm glad I didn't know that at the time, but her being there in her treatment center, treatment, The place where she went was in Arizona, and it's a 2.5 year program. So it was long term. We knew
That's
she was
I
coming
that's
home soon.
need long term. My friend went for 20 days because she has a young son, and she's like now that she's home, she's struggling so much. So
Yeah.
and everybody I know that has gone to a year or more has been very successful. I think long term is the way to go, even if you don't want to. It
Yeah.
is if you want to be sober for a like and actually get it and actually be removed from the setting that's causing it, you need long term
Yeah.
for sure.
100%. And I think putting her in that, she did residential and all of that. So like over time of being there and getting the groups and the counseling, and she was with a bunch of other teens, so she made friends, and like it was quite an experience, but it
Community, right?
transformed her thoughts about what she really wanted for herself and for her future. And that's not something that I could have done for her.
Not being a parent, they don't want to listen to us half the time. Not
Nope.
until they get to that point, right?
Yeah.
Like with my mom, I know even when I was in AA, she would come with me to the open meetings and everything and like was very supportive, but yet then when I would relapse, and like this I relapsed and I passed out and missed her 50th surprise birthday party. Like that hurt her so bad, and I like it really hurts me that I did that, but it was because I just wasn't getting the treatment that I needed. But I'm not going to put the blame on that. That was still my choice to drink earlier in the day before the party and pass out. And my mom doesn't ever bring it up or rub it in my face or anything like that because I think she already knows that I wasn't listening to her, even though
Yeah.
she was supporting me. So, what's the point of bringing it up? But I know that it hurts her. My uncle sent me this huge email about how that was so hurtful to my mom. And even though she'll never admit it, that it was bad. And I'm like,
I
that
know.
kind of helped me really identify that I had a problem because before it was more of like your daughter said, I'm just going to appease people. And then I met a boy, so it was like, oh, I'm going to appease people, and I get to see my little boy, whatever, you know what I mean? And it wasn't
Yeah.
putting the effort into recovery, like you said, right? It's like
Mhm.
that's why you have the therapy as well as the neuro the brain
Brain stuff. Yeah. Mhm.
because you need, like you said, you need both, right? And so like that's where I was lacking. I was like just trying to appease people and still thinking I was being snaky and yeah, like it was that's what I mean by like I was screaming for help, but like I don't think anybody really could see it, because I was hurting people along the way. So they didn't really like because like a mother-daughter relationship is very, especially when you're younger, right? Like I wasn't the easiest child. I'm an only child, and it was me and my mom a lot because my dad worked all the time, right? So
Yeah.
we would have a lot of contentious things happen. So me doing that is just one of the things that I did until I got sober. Um I didn't get sober for a while after that. I got sober when my dad passed away because my dad hated my drinking, right? So um he was in a coma and I prayed for him to come back, and I said I would never drink again if he came back, and he came back and lived another year, so I didn't drink because I got like, do you know what I mean? It's for me it's very mental. I feel like I'm letting him down. I feel like I made a promise that I have to keep. So
Good.
that's why I said I didn't do it traditionally, but it's just I made a promise I have to keep, and I'm just going to keep that promise. And I also know I don't want my life to get out of control more than because like life's not easy no matter if you're sober or not, but if you're not sober, it makes it 10 times worse. And you're like, oh, just waking up after the next day and being like, oh, I did that. Like, I just I could see why like that machine would help so much because it puts your brain back to normal and then they can have a therapy session afterwards. And I think that what you're doing is great. Like I wish there was more people doing this out there because like I said when my friend said the machine thing, that's the only person I've ever heard mention that.
I'm
And
sure.
that's within 20 years of like him to you, right? So like it's not something a lot of people know about. And so I'm so glad I got to talk to you today because I'm
Thank you.
like, this is a real thing. He didn't really explain it very well. We were young, right? So
Yeah.
it
And he
actually,
might not have known, but he knew it worked.
yeah, well, that he just said that he was hooked up to this machine because
Yeah.
his mom got off of um her depression medication that way. So she guided him into that and it actually worked. And he has been sober for years. Like he won't even smoke a cigarette or anything, right? And
Awesome.
so so I know it works. So
Yep.
it's so
Yep.
weird that through talking to so many people in recovery and just being in the community myself, never hearing it again until now, it's sad because I know it works and I wish more people would be trying to do this, but I feel like that's what I mean by the gap in our system with that. Like
Right.
I don't know why like more therapists don't use that as a tool alongside with the therapy. You know what I mean? Like how you do it. I think that would
Because
be
I did it backwards. I started with the brain healing and had to add the therapy part. So I did it non-traditionally, and because I think a lot of people who get into counseling, they really do just want to do counseling, and that's kind of what I have encountered. And there's a few that want to add it, but I think they don't know how to add it and do it really well. But my mission was coming from the place of addiction and seeing how it could really help the brain. And so I started there, and that's just our heart because it's what we lived. And then all the other people that we can still help, of course, I'll help anyone. I'm not going to discriminate, but I think it just came from what we lived and it just grew out of that. And so it is very unique what we do and how we do it, and maybe even why we do it, because we have so much emotion and so much pain behind it. And we just want to try to pass on the gifts that we were given, how we got to where we are. And everybody can have hope. And we just, that's what we want to do ultimately.
that's like what ultimately I wish every healthcare practitioner would think, you know, but I just love it so much and I love that you work with your daughter and I think that's why it comes from such a place of healing because you guys have that bond of her getting better and you being able to help her get better and then her being able to come and work with you and then the book I just think sounds very interesting because you get both perspectives and I would wonder what my mother would say if we did something like that. You know what I mean? So I find that
Yeah,
super interesting, you know, because I bet you half of it would be exactly what my mom said would say, you know. So and I
probably.
think it probably both help you guys release a lot of old ghosts, you know what I mean?
It did. Well, during our recovery time too, we rebuilt our relationship together. And that took a lot of vulnerability and a lot of, going back and trying to put pieces together that, we had never talked about before with each other. And so it took a lot of work, but when you're both coming from a place of vulnerability and humility, it can really be beautiful. And it took a time, but I would say, I mean, she is my best friend. We do a lot together, not only work together, but a lot, and a lot of just fun stuff together, and we enjoy each other, and we do have a mutual understanding. Like, I do treat her like an adult because she is, and I am not trying to mother her anymore. She doesn't need that unless she asks for it, and then of course she gets it. But But she's a very capable adult, a capable human, and actually she impresses me all the time. And I love watching her be successful and try new things and discover more about herself. And that's one of the most fun things about working with her is I get to watch her just flourish and grow, and I can be here when she struggles if she needs me, and help her find, find her footing again and keep moving forward. And so the beauty out of the pain is that we have that kind of relationship now. And I wouldn't trade that for anything. I wouldn't go back and change it.
I wish I had that same kind of relationship with my mom, but I don't think she's willing to be vulnerable. She's had her own
That's fine.
traumatic life that is
Yeah.
hard on her. But I wish we could. I had it with my father, but he sadly passed away. So that's something that um that's where I get blockage, you know what I mean? Like mental blockage. And that's where like I would benefit from something like this because it would help me maybe move past some of my feelings with that, and maybe I would be a little bit easier on my mom than I am because of that. You know what I mean? Because I feel like I harbor some resentment, she harbors some resentment, and like she
That's
still
easy.
tries to mother me, and then I get like offended to
Angry.
some
Mhm.
degree, obviously, right? Because I have like my own children and her telling me that I'm doing this wrong or I'm, hurting them or doing whatever. Um, I think back to how she was as a parent to me, and I'm like, why are you saying these things when you know what I mean? So it's like we need to heal our relationship. So I think that the fact that you guys are able to do that, and I love how also if not feeling strong, she has you right there. Like that is very important in staying long term sober, is having somebody
Yes.
that's your cheerleader and somebody who's educated in the field that's your cheerleader, because that
Yes.
helps so much because you understand. You lived it with her. So every little bit of it is also a part of you, right?
Mhm. Yeah. 100%. You
So
said it
I
beautifully.
love it. Do you have any last things you want to say before I let you go?
Um, Thank you. Thank you for having me on. This has been really fun. I could talk for hours, you know.
Oh, same.
I just to me it's a really interesting topic. I think more people need to know about it. I want, if I can be a part of educating people, I want to. And maybe the other thing I will add at the end here is I do still offer support groups for parents. They're called Parents of Addicted Loved Ones, and we meet once a week. It's always free. Anybody is welcome, 18 or older. Even if you don't have a child who's addicted, but the meetings are geared toward parents, so I can give back that kind of room full of support of other parents for parents who are really struggling. And I think that is one of my favorite things
That
still.
is very important. And like I've said, I see parents suffer so much and they don't know which way to go, and they don't have like other friends that are going through the same thing. They don't want to talk about it. Like
Yep.
I like that in itself is a very important tool for parents that have to go through this, because I know how much it can torment them and they don't know exactly what to do, and they also don't have anybody to lean on a lot of the time, right? So
Yeah.
that in itself is amazing. So thank you for sharing that.
Yeah.
Well, thank you so much for coming on today. I may have you back because I
Okay.
might want to talk a little more. But yeah, thank you
Sure.
so much, and have a nice rest of your day.
Thank you. You too.
Thank you.